Hey people on YouTube land, Zach all back here doing another review. I'm going to do a comparison video. Someone asked me to compare the Ruckman Reference Bible and the Common Man's, so I wanted to do that real quick for you. This will be a review of the outside and the inside, not necessarily the notes, okay? So the notes are relatively going to be the same. They're going to be dispensational, more slanted towards Baptist doctrines, premillennial, rapture. You're going to have a lot of stuff with dispensationalism in both, so just keep that in mind on the notes. So if you like those things, you probably would like either one of these, but just comparing the outsides and the insides so you can get a better view of it, which one would be better for you. So both are made out of lambskin as far as the covers go. The Ruckman is definitely a less shiny. As a matter of fact, you can see the light is reflecting more off the Common Man's here than the Ruckman. The Ruckman is just nice and matte as far as its finish. The Common Man's is a little bit more shiny, but both are soft, both are flexible, very nice. I had my name imprinted on this one. Lambskin is a great leather to have your name imprinted on it, so if you want to do that, I would encourage you to do so. Both have raised hubs here, so the outside is pretty much identical as far as the quality. There's a little bit less on the spine on the Ruckman than there is the Common Man's. Both are imitation leather lined, and both are tabbed into the block. Okay, so they're built really well. Both have presentation pages and a section of cardstock. So the difference being though that the Common Man's is going to be printed on thicker cardstock paper, and it's more of a parchment color. So you can see it's more yellow, whereas the Ruckman's title page, get a couple cardstock there, is printed on Bible paper, so it's definitely going to be thinner. Both have title pages. Both will have a preface. Both will have the epistle dedicatory. Both will have a index to the books of the Bible. And then we'll get into Genesis, so you can see there. And also on the presentation pages, the Common Man's has marriage certificate of births, marriages, deaths, all of that stuff. So you get a page there, epistle dedicatory, preface. And the other thing is too, the copyrights on this. The Common Man's, you can literally print from the page to paper, and you don't have to call the publisher. He made it copyright free, so you can honestly use it for a Sunday school, Bible study, or church. The Ruckman, you will have to call for permission if you do want to use any of the material found in it. Okay, so here's Genesis, and I'll give you guys a view of that. So as far as the font goes, the Common Man's is going to be an 10-point font. The Ruckman will be a 9-point, but the Ruckman is bolded, so it's a little bit easier to see and read. And I'll go ahead and just turn this page here, so you can see the Ruckman's a little bit darker font. The Common Man's is a 10-point, Ruckman 9-point, and the notes, I believe it's an 8-point for the Ruckman and a 9-point for the Common Man's. But again, this is a darker font, so it's about the same readability. So I could say the verses are easier to see in the Ruckman. As you can see, they're bolded, and the Common Man's is not. Now, as far as the opening up to a book, you're going to have an introduction for both. Okay. The Ruckman has where the chapter begins and where it ends, so like a Schofield. Common Man's doesn't. Both are going to have Usher's dates, so you have BC 4004. You're going to have the dates up there as well. And then each, as far as the reference systems go, are going to be more like a Schofield, so you're going to have the letters in the text that point you to the cross-reference center, and you're going to have numbers that direct you to the bottom of the page. So you have a 1, that means you're going to go to your first note. Okay, so the paper is a little bit whiter to my view in the Common Man's than it is in the Ruckman. The Ruckman's a little bit more of a cream color, but it's still nice and white. The margins, because the Ruckman's taller, it's going to have a little bit more of a margin space. So if you can see in that center, there's just a bigger margin and at the top, and as we turn into this, you'll kind of see So there's a comparison of the margins. Now the Ruckman has a little bit bigger margin at the bottom and top of the page. The Common Man's margins are probably a little bit wider on the outside and inside, but they're all really close. So they're both going to be really good wide margin Bibles for you. Now Ruckman's reference Bible does not have as many cross references as the Hoffman does, or as the Common Man's does. So you can see as I'm flipping through here, there's a decent amount, but there's not a lot of cross references. So there's that. But in the Common Man's, you can see right there, on any given page, there's a lot of cross references. And especially when you see, even in the Psalms, you're going to have a lot of cross references. But especially once you get in the New Testament, there's a lot more cross references in the Common Man's than there is in the Ruckman. So keep that in mind. But then also in between the Old and New Testaments, you're going to have a page on the intertestamental period. And while I'm at it, both paper are good for marking and taking notes, so you don't have to worry about that. Definitely use micron pens and a gel highlighter if you're highlighting, or just use pens to underline. But the paper is good in both of these. So you get to the end of Malachi. Here's an introduction to the New Testament, and then a postscript of the Old Testament. So this will kind of go in the intertestamental period, so in between, then you'll get an introduction to the New Testament. This has the silent years, and then you get right into the New Testament. And then the thing on the transitional period. And then with the Ruckman though, or excuse me, with the Common Man's, you're actually going to get something after the book of Acts. So this is the epistles of Paul. You won't get that in the Ruckman. Okay, so there's that. Just go straight to Romans. And then once you're done with the Pauline epistles in this one, he has one, I think, for the general epistles. But I'll have to check. Okay, so maybe it's after Hebrews. Oh, no, okay. So then he doesn't have the page between Hebrews and James, but so there's a little bit more inside the Bible as far as information-wise in the Common Man's, just a tad more. Both are not red letter, so keep that in mind. But at the back of this, you're going to have a lot more information in the Ruckman. So you're going to have all these appendices here. So you have 118 appendices in the Ruckman, which is really thick. You have a lot of information back here. And the Common Man's, you're not going to have, in this one at least, you're not going to have any. This is the 3rd edition. Now in the 4th edition, Brother Hoffman put 2 articles back here. One on 7 steps to learning the Scripture, and then perfect unity under a pure authority. So you'll have those 2 articles back here and a notes section. So then you have your notes section and your maps. Here you'll have the appendices, and then you'll have a notes section as well. And then you have maps. The maps, I would say I would have to give the slight edge to the to the Common Man's, just as far as just how they look and how they feel. The Ruckmans are pretty good, but he has actually more maps in here, but a lot of them don't deal with some biblical things. Some are like the 7 Years' War, different more modern events. So here you have like the establishment of Israel as a country again. So you have all those things. You'll have the war of the Yom Kippur War and the 6 Days War. So you have some different things like that. Then you have Kingdoms of the Antichrist and the Ruckman. So you have maps in both, note pages in both, a little bit more in the back of the Ruckman, and the Ruckman is a little bit easier, or excuse me, the Common Man is a little bit easier to carry. It's just a little bit smaller. Both have 2 ribbon markers. Both have head and tail bands. Both do have gold gilding. Okay, so again, you won't have the blue if you get the Common Mans. I put that on there myself, but you will get the gold. Both are Smythe sewn, great paper, great Bibles to use. The Common Mans is $99 for the 4th edition, which is the newer one, and it was cheaper than when I bought this one. So this was like $109, but you can get it for $99 now from purewordsofTruth.com. And then the Ruckman is going to be $159. Okay, so that's a big difference. So you have about a $60 difference there. That may also help you with your decision. I think both are great. I use both. I reference both frequently. I put a lot of my notes in the Ruckman. I put a lot of my notes in the Common Mans. Really, it's a tie on readability. They're both readable to me. I love reading out of both of them. The notes are going to be, of course, more up front, more in your face. This is just the style of both men. So I hope this review is helpful for you. And again, same thickness about, so as far as carryability, yeah, the Common Man's is just going to be a little bit shorter. The print's about the same size, just different styles of print. The margins are about the same. They're a little bit bigger than the Ruckman, but that's because it's bigger. A little bit more information in the back of the Ruckman than there is in the Common Man's, but in the Bible itself, there's a little bit more information in the Common Man's than there is in the Ruckman. And then there's more maps in the Ruckman than there is in Common Man's. So I hope this comparison was helpful for you. If you have any questions or anything that I can help you with, definitely put those in the comments, and I'd love to answer them. Have a great day, and God bless.